Which monoclonal antibody is used in rheumatoid arthritis? Now, this is a very hot question which we must know. And monoclonal antibodies, at least one is generally asked in the NEET PG examination. And if the question is repeated from the PG examination, it can be like there are good chances to be repeated in your uh, MDS examination as well, right? So yes, we should understand there is something that is known as the biological DMARDs. Okay, I'll just write biological DMARDs, and there's something that is known as the TNF alpha. So if you remember, these are kind of cytokines, right? And these TNF alpha play a major role in the joint destruction in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. So yes, there will be TNF alpha. More the TNF alpha is there will be more and more destruction of the joint. There will be more destruction of the joint in rheumatoid arthritis people, right? Now, what should we do to avoid this TNF alpha? Yes, we can give the TNF alpha blocking agents, right? We can give the TNF alpha blocking agents. So, we call it as TNF alpha blockers also, right? So, what are the five very important drugs that we should remember for the TNF alpha blocking agents? So, these are, I'll just write these names, and all these names are very important. So you have to remember, one is the etanercept, then adalimumab, then infliximab, and here you get your answer also. Then golimumab, and then certolizumab. Now these are the five drugs which are the TNF alpha blockers, and they generally act by blocking the action of TNF alpha, right? So all these drugs are given subcutaneously except one which is given IV, and which is the one that is your drug of interest, that is the infliximab. It is generally given by IV route, while most other drugs, all other drugs are given by subcutaneous route. So that is something that is differentiating it from other members of this particular group, right? And these drugs can cause the activation of latent tuberculosis. Now this is something that has been asked in PG exam, so you can just remember it can cause the activation of latent tuberculosis. These drugs can cause the activation of that. Now, this infliximab can also be given in other conditions like Crohn's disease, psoriatic arthritis, your Wegener's granulomatosis, and your sarcoidosis. So these are certain other indication of the infliximab. Okay, so I'll try writing these. One is your Crohn's disease. Then you have your psoriatic arthritis. Then the third one is your Wegener's granulomatosis, and then we have our sarcoidosis. So these are certain other conditions where you can use the monoclonal antibody, that is your infliximab. Now quickly walking through the key concept. Monoclonal antibodies, what are these? These are antibodies that is produced by a single clone of your defense cells. These are the B cells actually. All monoclonal antibodies are going to be remembered by a suffix mab. So whenever you see a mab as the suffix, means the last three letters should be mab. So you are going to consider it as your what? That is your monoclonal antibody, right? Now, if we just talk about the infliximab, yes, this is going to be monoclonal antibody and that is going to be anti-TNF antibody, that is 75% human protein and 25% made up of mouse protein. So this TNF alpha is actively produced at the synovial joint, right? Wherever there is synovial site in the joint, you will be having this rheumatoid arthritis. So there will be more and more TNF alpha, right? And that is going to bind to the TNF alpha, your infliximab. That means your drug is going to bind to TNF alpha, and that's why it is going to have very high affinity towards the TNF alpha, and that is how it is going to prevent the destruction in the joint caused by TNF alpha. So yes, if we just see the anti-rheumatoid drugs and we'll see the non-biological drugs and biological drugs, inside the biological drugs you'll see the TNF alpha inhibitor, that is etanercept, infliximab and adalimumab. These are certain important options, and if we go back to the question, we have our short answer, that is infliximab, as the correct answer for the monoclonal antibody that is given in the rheumatoid arthritis, and it acts as the anti-TNF alpha drug.